Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor with Retail Insider. Joining me today is Simon Gaudreault, who is Chief Economist and Vice President of Research for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks for joining us today, Simon.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you folks at the CFIB have put out a new report, the Main Street Quarterly, which looks at some of the economic conditions that are currently in place in this country. Let's start with a general question, Simon, and tell me what the report showed when it comes to the overall Canadian economy in the third quarter of this year and into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so as you've said it's a brand new report that we aim to release going forward every quarter. So this report, as any future report, is looking at three main things. We first have a section on short-term forecasts. So we're looking at core economic indicators like GDP, private investment, employment, retail sales. That's the first part of the report. And what we're seeing in that part of the report is that things have certainly cooled down for the third quarter of this year. So with our data, we're able to access small business perspectives almost in real time. And we're using that to project estimates for the entire Canadian economy. And what we're seeing is certainly a GDP that almost did not grow during the third quarter, and very moderate growth that is picking up. So for Q3, we have, for example, 0.3% growth. And for the fourth quarter of this year, we have a little bit less than 2% growth. So that's very moderate. And of course, it's in line with recent policy decisions by the Bank of Canada raising interest rates to fight inflation. That does have an impact of course, on small businesses, and because they are the backbone of the economy, by extension, that does have an impact on the overall economy. So that's what we're seeing in the first part of our report.
So tell me, what are the key factors that are contributing to that cooling of the economy? Is it inflation?
So we've already mentioned the fact that, yes, the Bank of Canada is fighting inflation. So to do that, they are hiking interest rates. So of course, that has an impact on, let's say, the real estate market. Consumers might rethink certain decisions. When the bank hike interest rates, it's sending a message to the overall economy that it's time to put on the brakes. So people will respond, and that's actually what's happening to a certain extent. But you add on top of that many other challenges that businesses are facing right now. Labor shortages are still there, and we'll get to that in a minute, because that's another part of our report. And you have also the supply chain challenges that are slowly going away, but are still there to complicate things for small businesses. And in a separate research that we have at CFIB that is not part of our report today, we call it our small business recovery dashboard. So we've been tracking the health of the small business sector throughout the pandemic. We're still doing it on a monthly basis. We can see that many businesses are still not back to normal sales. Actually, more than half of them are not back to normal sales, and many are still trailing a COVID debt that they haven't been able to repay yet. So that is slowing down the Canadian economy, and that's why it's so important to find ways to support our small businesses right now.
Can you talk, first of all, before we get into some of this other stuff in terms of jobs and pandemic debt, wanted to ask you for the retailers out there that, what did the study find in terms of what to expect for the retail sector?
Yeah, so we do estimate now with this new publication retail sales. And what we're seeing is a very moderate growth of retail sales in the fourth quarter of this year. So I think it's echoing, unfortunately, what we've been hearing from other sources. This year's holiday shopping season might be a bit more moderate compared to other years. And for Q3, the 3 months that just passed, we estimate based on our data that retail sales have actually retreated to a certain extent, not by a very large percentage, but minus 0.6%. So what we're seeing with these numbers is a retail sector that is still facing challenges in going back to the level of sales that we've had in better years. So the recovery is still not completed for the retail sectors, according to our latest projections.
Now, Simon, you did mention labor shortages, and it's an issue that many small businesses, perhaps most of them, have faced here in the last little while. Tell me how bad the situation is out there, and what you guys have found in your report when it comes to job vacancies currently.
So we look at private sector job vacancies, and our estimates for the third quarter, again, it's very current data. It's showing that the job vacancy rate has, yes, it has retreated a bit. It's now at 4.9%. It was at 5% in the previous quarter, so 4.9 for the third quarter of this year. It's going down finally after many quarters in a row where it kept increasing and increasing and increasing, which was actually illustrating an issue that is only increasing in intensity. Labor shortages, we've said it in our previous research that we've done at CFIB over the past few years. We've said they were back with a vengeance, actually, because although they might have labor shortages might have been a bit attenuated by the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was not much of an issue, but they came back, and they're driven by demographics. So that's why we unfortunately don't believe this issue is going away anytime soon. And even though the job vacancy rate has been decreasing since the last quarter, it's still a level that we haven't quite seen before since we're tracking this piece of data, which goes back in our data series to 2004. So we're at historical levels, and unfortunately, we expect that we'll stay at very high levels for the foreseeable future. How does that translate in the actual number of job vacancies? For Canada, we have 663,000 job vacancies in the third quarter for the entire private sector. And for the retail sector, we estimate that there are actually currently 85,000 job vacancies in the retail sector in Canada. So that's a significant challenge for many businesses and for many retailers.
And of course, for the retail sector, it's extremely important now as we head into their busiest time of the season with the holidays. But I also wanted to ask you about pandemic debt and the debt, maybe if you can refresh my memory. I know that talking to Dan Kelly, the CFIB's president and CEO, he's often talked about the amount of debt that the small businesses have taken on average because of the pandemic. First of all, what is that debt load, and how bad is it for these small businesses, and what you found in your report?
So the current average debt, the debt related to the pandemic, that's how we're asking the question. For those who still have debt, because you might have businesses that have already cleared their pandemic debt, but for those that remain, that still have to handle pandemic debt, the average outstanding debt right now in Canada is 140, almost 44,000 dollars per business on average. So that's significant. If you think about the typical business that we have in Canada, and that might be something that some people don't know, but the typical business, so half of all businesses have 5 employees or less in Canada, and the other half have more than 5 employees. So if you have an operation like this, it's very hard to handle that amount of debt.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, for many, without going back to normal sales or having not returned to normal sales yet, it's not possible to repay that debt yet. And that's how also what we found with our recent surveys. 40% actually of all businesses in Canada currently have pandemic debt that they haven't even started repaying yet. So that's a significant 4 out of 10 businesses. That's a significant proportion. They have debt that they cannot even start repaying now. And when we ask them about whether or not they think their financial situation is a challenge right now for their business, including the debt situation, you have about 55% of businesses in Canada that say, yes, it is a significant challenge for us right now. So that's how concerning the financial situation is for the small business sector right now.
All right. Thanks very much, Simon, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. That was Simon Gaudreault, who is Chief Economist and Vice President of Research for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor with Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.